This is a Hyundai Ioniq Electric, and in this video I'm going to talk about 12-volt battery issues on this car, which we've now experienced for the first time, and I'm also going to show you how you change the 12-volt battery up front. So I've had Hyundai Ioniqs now for 4 years, and we've had various ones, sometimes running 2 at a time, and have never yet experienced issues with the 12-volt battery until last week. So that's what's prompted me to make this video, and I'll just show you what we experienced. And today I'm going to change the 12-volt battery on this car. So just like combustion engine vehicles, EVs still have 12-volt batteries, and they're doing exactly the same job in an EV as they are in a combustion engine vehicle. So when your car's not running and you walk up to the car and you unlock it, the 12-volt battery is doing that, and when you're starting it, the 12-volt battery is doing that. Obviously it's not turning over an engine because this is an electric motor, but it's still starting the vehicle. What it's doing is powering all the ECUs, closing the contactors in the high voltage battery to deliver that high voltage to turn the car on. So it's completely reliant on the 12-volt battery to start the car. But after 4 years of owning Hyundai Ioniqs and collectively driving something like, I don't know, let's see, for 40, 60, probably 70 to 80,000 miles in total, I have never yet experienced a 12-volt battery issue. However, this vehicle did last week for the first time. So as you can see on this battery, I've got a BM2 device here, and this is wired up to the negative and positive terminal, and this is a Bluetooth device which sends data to your phone, and this is monitoring the state of health of the battery pack. And this saves the day. So I've done a separate video on those, which I'll link at the top of the screen and in the video description below. But I've been expecting an issue with this car for some time, and I've had this on our other ones as well. And I've been meaning to make a video about 12-volt issues on Ioniqs, but so far we haven't experienced a problem. That's why there's been no video until now. But this thing, while it didn't save us, it gave us a bit of advance warning. And I got my partner's mobile here, and as you can see, this is running the app and it's reading the status of the battery, and at the moment it's at 12.22 volts and the battery is okay. And if I then look at the graph, we can see here the battery status throughout the day. And then if I call up the calendar, you can see that there's blue spots and red spots. And the blue spots is when everything was alright, and the red spots are on days where the 12-volt battery got a bit low. And the first one was on April the 8th. And then when we call that up, we can see that the low spot was just here at roughly 7 PM in the evening, and the battery dropped just below 12 volt. But you can see the discharge rate is nice and even, and there was nothing to worry about then. And the next time there was an issue was on Sunday the 14th, and as we can see there, it only dropped to 12 volts, so not really anything to worry about then. And then throughout the week it was all good. So let's just jump to the 17th. All good there, dropping down to, what was that, something like 12.2 volts, but nice gentle discharge curves. When it peaks, that's when the vehicle is being used, or in this case 8 AM, that's when the preconditioning came on in the morning. And then in this case the car wasn't used until sort of 3 o'clock there, probably a school pickup or something like that. And then if I jump to the 18th, we can see there all good. You can see where the car is preconditioning. Previously you can see there where it charged during the night, and then again another drive in the afternoon. If I jump to the 19th, it's all good, but you can see here later on in the day the discharge rate was getting a little bit more serious. It dropped down to 12 volt, just below 12 volts there. So the state of the curve here where it's dropping is getting a little bit steeper, and this is where we started to sort of see the issues. Then we jump to the 20th, and we can see here that the discharge rate was much steeper each time. And then the 21st, this is where it really started causing us a problem, and you can see here from midnight until 9 in the morning the battery was discharging at quite a rate. We then had a period where the car was on, but when the car switched off, the battery started discharging at quite a significant rate each time. And then we get to April the 22nd, and this is the first time where the car didn't start. And you can see here from midnight onwards, the battery was discharging at quite a rate, and it got down to below 11 volts. And then it suddenly dropped. That's when the car was unlocked and the mirrors unfolded, and the car would not start. And it was displaying errors on the screen, and this is then when we had to jump start the car with a jump pack. So at this point I ordered a new 12 volt battery, which came the next day, because it's now 4 years old. It's at the point where batteries typically need changing anyway, and we don't want this to continuously cause us problems. But it's the weirdest thing, because since that day, if we now go to the 23rd, you can see here it wasn't discharging at all. And the next day, 24th, wasn't discharging. It's staying at 13 volts. And again, the next day, not discharging at all. Really flat discharge curve. So it's the most weirdest thing that we've had 3 days of it playing up and discharging rapidly. And then ever since, it has been absolutely fine. That looks like a brand new battery. And there's today. So it's just strange that played up for 3 days, and then for what's now been a week since, it's not caused us any problems whatsoever. But we never got stranded, and even though once this battery did discharge enough that the vehicle wouldn't start, we didn't get caught out, because I was prepared and we had a jump pack here, and just connecting that up made the vehicle start straight away. But we also had prior notice because of this BM2 device as well. But as I bought a new battery, I might as well fit it anyway, and as I said, this vehicle's now 4 years old, so it's at the sort of age where lead acid batteries do need changing anyway, and there's no point in that sitting in the workshop or garage slowly deteriorating. It might as well be on the car and we'll get some use out of it. So the battery I bought is an Exide EA406, and this is the same specs as the original Hyundai. As you can see, this one is the original factory fitted one, and it's 40 amp hour 350 amps, and this is the same 40 amp hour 350 amp. When you're buying these batteries, it's the amp hours is the important figure. That's the storage capacity of the battery, and the higher the number, the longer the battery is going to last, the more charge it can hold. But when you're looking at this form factor of battery, I can't remember exactly what this size is, but I'll put it up on the screen, and all the details are going to be in the video description below. When you're looking at this form factor of battery, it's very difficult to get anything higher than 40 amp hour. In the UK, the most common brands for these in this form factor is either the Exide or the Urasa batteries, but this was slightly cheaper and they all had the same specs. But links to this and all the others are going to be in the video description. So the tools you need for changing the battery is just two really. You're going to need a 10mm socket or spanner to undo the terminals, and you're also going to need a 12mm socket or spanner to remove that bolt down there to take the holding clamp off. But changing the battery on the Ioniq Electric is probably one of the easiest cars to do. There aren't many cars where you have this much access, particularly to the clamp. It's just a really easy job on this car. So the first thing you need to do, as with all modern cars, is turn the vehicle off and then leave it for a few minutes. You've got to leave enough time for all the ECUs to properly shut down, so you want to really leave it for 2 to 3 minutes at least. On some electric vehicles, particularly the Renaults, the DC to DC converter, i.e. the charger to charge the battery, is running as soon as you open the door. I've just tested in this case and it's not the case on the Ioniq, and as we can see the voltage is 12.1 volts, so it is a bit low actually. But I've just opened the door and the battery charging hasn't switched on. If the battery was being charged by the onboard charger, i.e. the DC to DC converter, then this would jump up to 14 or 14.5 volts or so. Let's just show you that actually. I'll just turn the vehicle on. and we can now see the battery voltage is 14.69 or 14.7 volts. So that shows us that the DC to DC converter there is now charging the 12 volt battery, obviously because the vehicle's running. And that's the mistake some people make when they test the 12 volt battery and say, well, it's at 14 volts, it's all good. What they're actually testing is the charge voltage and not the voltage of the battery. So if I now turn the vehicle off, the voltage will now slowly drop. So it's at 13 volts, and that will slowly drop down to the base voltage of the battery at the time, which on a good battery should be 12.5 or 12.6 volts. But as we saw in this case, this was going down nearer 12 volts. So I'm just going to leave this now for 2 or 3 minutes before I disconnect those leads. When you buy a new battery, they're not actually fully charged. So if you've got a battery charger, a mains battery charger, and ideally one of the new sort of smart intelligent chargers, it's a good idea to charge this for 24 hours before you fit it in the car. But if you haven't, no big problem, they're charged enough and it's going to work just fine, because of course the vehicle is going to charge the battery when you're driving. The other thing to note on these form factor batteries, these are often called Asian batteries because they're used on Japanese and Korean cars, and they're a much smaller, taller battery than we typically have in European cars. But what you find with these is they have smaller battery terminals, as you can see, and this has the standard European size terminal. So you get these adapters, which is just a collar which sits over there and increases the diameter of the battery terminal. So you want to make sure that those are on, and as you could see, that got stuck inside the plastic cap. I've seen cases where batteries are missing these, and what they've done is squeeze these terminals up tight and maybe pack them out with bits of lead or whatever to make them fit, and you don't want to be doing any of that. You want to have the proper adapters on there, because then that's making a decent contact. And if you find it's a bit loose, you could squeeze that up in a vise and give that a gentle tap with a hammer to tap that down tight, because you don't want any play in it, as there is on this one. And that is almost getting, oh no, there's a bit of a gap. I'll be able to tap that down and make that tight, and that one's tight. So you just want to make sure before you fit the battery that these are a snug fit on there. But this battery terminal is going to be clamped up, which should also put pressure on that and tighten that up a little bit. But you certainly don't want to have play like that in it, because that's going to give you a poor connection and give you problems. But giving that a gentle tap down with a hammer will normally do the trick. So the battery on this car is measuring 12.09 volts. So yeah, it's a good job I am replacing it, because that clearly actually is on its way out. So what you need to do is remove the bracket and just make sure you don't drop any of this down inside the engine bay here, because sometimes, yeah, there we go, there's a washer on the back. Well, it's not really a washer, that's stopping the bolt falling out of the bracket, but sometimes they can fall off. And then we need to remove the terminals. So you should always disconnect the negative terminal first, like that, and we're going to remove the BM2 module and put that back on afterwards. And then once your negative is disconnected, we can then remove the positive terminal, and that's that center nut there, not the two back ones. Again, we can just remove that temporarily and then give that a wiggle and get that out the way, and that battery will then just lift out. Now this is out of the car, I thought I'd just test this battery, and as we can see the voltage jumped up to 12.3. So maybe that battery monitor was just draining a little bit from it there, I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, 12.3 isn't too bad. It should be about 12.5, 12.6. So let's go to battery test, out of vehicle. It's a regular battery, and this was 350 amp. So let's just move that down to 350. As you can see, the last battery I tested was 720. That was from a Renault Kangoo electric van. Right, 320. Not that cold cranking amps really make a scrap of difference on an EV. Right, this is saying good, recharge. It's rated at 320 amps. It's measured 323 amps. Wow. State of health is 85%, state of charge is 73%. So, that's saying the battery is healthy enough. So, state of health 85%. Let's just see what the new battery is. Let's just drop that down to there so it's an easier height. Because what I found is my battery tester here will often show brand new batteries at only about 85 to 90% anyway. If I put them on the right way around, wouldn't it? I've got the battery the wrong way around. Right, so we can see here the voltage is 12.77 volts, so obviously that's a bit better. Test out of the vehicle, 320. This is 350. Did I have it wrong on the other one? What was the other one? 350. Right, that was the mistake I made then. It's not 320. So this is measuring 314 amps. Obviously much less than the 350 should be. State of health 75%. Look at that. State of charge 100. So as you can see, that battery, as far as my tester goes, is no different or no better to this 4-year-old battery. Let's just run this test again. 12.4 volts, jumped up a little bit. Battery test, out of vehicle, regular, 350 amps now, the proper amperage. Right, good battery, 324 amps. 78% state of health, 78% state of charge. So that battery is showing that it's no worse than the brand new battery. Anyway, I'm still going to fit this because I've got it. So you obviously want to make sure that the battery is in the right way, and the positive wants to be on the left hand side for your positive terminals, and the negative obviously for your negative. And you'll see there is a lip at the bottom of the battery, so that wants to be at the back under the lip on the faceplate, so that is catching on the back, and then the clamp there is going to clamp down on the lip on the front of the battery and clamp it tight down onto the base there, and then do that up tight. Like that. And before you connect the terminals, just properly test that that battery is solid and safe, because that's got to be securely clamped down so it doesn't move in an accident. And then do it in reverse. Put your positive terminal on first, and before I do that up, I'm just going to put that terminal under there to connect the battery monitor unit back up. Tighten that up again, just make sure that's all tight, and then put the negative terminal on. You'll sometimes get a spark when you put them on, but that's normal. Just push that down, give that a little wiggle to make sure that is down as far as it can go. And again, I nearly forgot then, I'm going to connect the battery monitor up and then do that up tight, and just make sure that's all tight with no wobbling or anything can't be loose, of course. So has anyone got any ideas why this battery was suddenly discharging like it was over 3 days, and it's been fine since, and actually tests fine now and is no different to a new battery? It's not software in the car, because nothing's changed. Software is just code that gets repeated time and time again, and the last time a software update was done in this car was probably 6 months ago, and it's been fine ever since until last week. No lights left on. We do have a Android Auto wireless device that was removed as well to double check that wasn't staying live and draining the 12-volt battery. There's just no explanation why it was suddenly draining for 3 days rapidly on this battery, and then got to a point where the vehicle wouldn't start and we had to jump it. But it's been fine before and it's been fine since. Obviously the voltage was a little bit low on this, but it could be because this was still live. I assume this goes into a sleep mode after a few minutes, but yeah, it's weird. And this isn't causing drain because I've had these fitted on this car for at least a year and others, and yeah, we've had no issues for the last, let's say, year on this car until last week. And then if you're going to send your old battery off for recycling, it might be worth just leaving up the adapters with the screwdriver and just keeping those for spares. So that's it, a very simple job on these cars. I'll put links in the video description below to all the common brands and models of 12-volt batteries which fit the Ioniq EV, and as I said, you just want to look at the amp hour figure and just get as high a figure as you can possibly get. Some of them in this form factor will be lower than 40 amp hour, just not worth it. Spend a few quid extra and get one that's 40 amp hour or greater. So that will do for this video. If you found it interesting or useful, please do click the thumbs up, because that really does help. Do subscribe to the channel. In the video description below will be a link to a playlist where you can see other videos I've done on the Hyundai Ioniq. And if you're not subscribed, please do. Again, that really helps. I'll see you on the next video. Okie doke. Bye then.